It's been a while since I've made a video like this where I go over the more interesting side of the Assassin's Creed franchise, whether it's secret details, references, or in this case, I've gone with 10 pretty interesting Assassin's Creed Easter eggs. Now I've tried my best to feature ones that are not well known, so don't expect your typical Mario Auditore makes a reference to Super Mario, or that there's a giant squid in Assassin's Creed Black Flag. That's been done way too many times. Also, check out my full playlist to see more similar videos, and do remember you can comment below a secret detail, an Easter egg, a reference or something similar, and I will try my best to feature it in the next part of this series. Some of the Easter eggs mentioned in this video are very cool. And speaking of something very cool, let me introduce you to something that I've been playing quite a lot lately, and that is Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus. If you love strategy games but hate when they feel too slow or they play themselves, Tacticus is a breath of fresh air. It's a fast-paced tactical turn-based game where every move actually matters. Positioning, ability management and team composition are all key to winning. You're in control the whole time, and when you pull off the perfect strategy, it's super satisfying. But what I really like about the game is how every single faction plays differently. There are over 80 champions from 18 factions, so you can build a squad that fits your style, whether that is brute force, tactical precision, or a mix of both. I personally love how cool the Blood Angels faction is, especially Mephiston, whose sheer size alone makes him look absolutely menacing. But whether you prefer to strategize solo in PvE, go head to head in PvP, or team up in massive guild raids, there is quite literally something for everyone. Now the best part about this is Tacticus is constantly adding new content all the time. Whether it's new champions, events or factions, there is always something fresh to dive into. Plus with an average rating of 4.5 stars on the app stores, it's clear that players love it. And right now you can grab 2,000 gold and 50 blackstones by using my code HelloFeb, but this is only available for a very limited time. So if you want to try out a tactical strategy game that actually rewards skill, press the link in the description or pinned comment, or scan the QR code on screen to download Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus and start playing today. Let's just start off with perhaps my favourite Easter egg that I've seen in a while, and it's to do with one of the greatest series of all time, Harry Potter. Now this one is tucked away in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and if you're somebody who loves scouring the world for hidden details, you might have already come across it. So in a home in London, at this location on the map, you can find this house, and when entering the house, there's a writing desk with a peculiar handwritten note on it, labelled Strange List. The list reads diary, ring, locket, cup, diadem, snake and question mark. Now instantly, if you are familiar with the Harry Potter series, and I mean very familiar with it, you'd already know what this reference is. But if you don't, well, it's an exact reference to the 7 Horcruxes from Harry Potter. These were the objects Voldemort used to split his soul, making him practically immortal. Well, of course, until Harry Potter and his friends went on a destruction spree, of course. For those who need a quick refresher, the diary belonged to Tom Riddle in Chamber of Secrets. The ring was his uncle's. The locket, cup and diadem came from 3 of Hogwarts founders. The snake was his beloved Nagini, and, plot twist, the final unknown item was Harry himself. The game cleverly leaves these 7 entries as question marks, which is a fun little nod to the mystery surrounding it in the books. Future hidden one here, I almost forgot to mention, those 4 banners are also a reference to the 4 houses in Hogwarts: Gryffindor, Ravensclaw, Hufflepuff and Slytherin. So yeah, back to the video. But that's not the only Harry Potter reference in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Over in Yanli's trading post in Ravensthorpe, you can pick up pages from a manuscript called Fantastic Fishes and Where to Find Them. That's a direct play on Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the Harry Potter spin-off series about magical zoologist Newt Scamander. And the last Harry Potter Easter egg in Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a bit different. So deep in the game, there's an altar with a pretty unusual name, and that altar's name is Dobby's Altar. If you're thinking, wait, Dobby? Like Dobby the house elf? Yes, exactly. And the way this altar works makes the reference even more perfect. You see, in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, there are these offering altars where you have to sacrifice specific items to complete the mystery. For Dobby's altar, the required offerings are 5 pieces of fabric. If you know anything about Harry Potter, you will instantly see the connection. In the wizarding world, house elves are freed when given clothing, which is why that moment in Chamber of Secrets when Harry tricks Lucius Malfoy into giving Dobby a sock is so legendary.
Master has presented Dobby with clothes.
Okay, this next Assassin's Creed Easter egg is a brutal throwback, one that ties together history, pop culture, and one of the most feared conquerors of all time, Genghis Khan. So in Assassin's Creed Origins, during a stone circle memory, there's a moment where Bayek and his son Khemu are talking while searching for the bull's constellation. In the middle of their conversation, Khemu asks Bayek,
Papa, what is best in life?
Bayek gives his answer, but Khemu is not convinced. He said that his friend Kenan had a different idea, to crush our enemies and hear the lamentations of their women.
My friend Kenan said it was to
crush our enemies and to hear the lamentations of their women.
Now, if that instantly rings a bell, it's probably because you've either watched the 1982 movie Conan the Barbarian, or you are a history nerd. In the film, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Conan is asked the same question, and his response is almost identical: to crush your enemies, to see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentations of their women.
What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
But here's the pretty cool part. This line isn't just something from a fantasy movie. It's actually inspired by a real quote that Genghis Khan himself had said. The historical version goes a bit further: to crush your enemies, to see them fall at your feet, to take their horses and goods, and hear the lamentations of their women. Ubisoft slyly references this bit of history to Camus' line, and if you're paying attention, it's a pretty neat little nod to both one of history's greatest conquerors of all time and also an iconic 80s film. There are only a few Easter eggs in this video that focus on the older games, simply because the Easter eggs in the older games have been talked about for so long, and there's just not as many compared to the more recent games. Anyway, this Assassin's Creed Easter egg is one of the weirdest ones in the series. A swamp whale in Assassin's Creed Liberation, and yes, you did hear that right, a whale in a Louisiana swamp. Now, in both the original PlayStation Vita version and the later HD edition of Assassin's Creed Liberation, there's a strange hidden detail that you can find whilst exploring the Louisiana Bayou. If you climb to the top of the lighthouse next to the Spanish fort, you'll notice something strange. If you position Aveline on a specific beam jutting out from the lighthouse and look out over the swamp, you'll suddenly hear, I believe, whale song. If you keep watching the water, you will actually see a massive whale swimming around, occasionally surfacing, flicking its tail, and even breaching like it's in the open ocean. Now let's just take a second to appreciate how strange this is. Whales don't belong in swamps, ever. The Louisiana Bayou is a shallow, murky wetland, filled with alligators, snakes, and maybe the occasional canoe, but definitely not massive sea creatures. So what's going on here? Is this a bug, a glitch, or some strange Ubisoft joke? Well, nobody really knows for sure. It's not explained anywhere in the game, and there is no in-game reason for a whale to just be chilling in the swamp. But that's what makes this Easter egg so fun. It's just so completely random and bizarre. Now interestingly, the way the whale is triggered differs between versions. On the PlayStation Vita version, it appears as soon as you climb the railing. In the HD remaster, you have to stand on the exact spot on the wooden beam for it to happen. Alright, this next Assassin's Creed Easter egg is a hilarious throwback to one of the greatest viral videos of all time. So in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, there's a world event called Eivor the Sheepdog. During this mission, Eivor meets a sheep farmer whose dog is supposed to be helping with the flock, but instead of the dog doing its job, the dog goes completely rogue, sending everything into total disarray. Now the best part is that the sheep farmer's opening lines in this side quest are an exact recreation of the legendary Fenton video, an iconic moment in YouTube history. If you somehow missed it, here's the situation. Back in 2011, a man was casually walking his dog, Fenton, in Richmond Park, London. Everything seemed to be fine, until Fenton spotted a massive herd of deer and instantly decided to go full hunter mode. What followed was absolute pandemonium. The man starts yelling after his dog.
Fenton! Oh, Jesus Christ! Fenton! Fenton! Oh, Christ!
In the world event in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the sheep farmer starts yelling for his own dog in the exact same way, and it's just as chaotic as the original video.
Jesus Christ! Fenton! 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 Jesus Christ! Fenton!
Now the world event is not all that special. You just pretty much kill some wolves surrounding the sheep Fenton and get Fenton to follow you back to his owner who's waiting for him, or her. I don't know the sheep's gender. You know, this is just one of those beautifully dumb Easter eggs that make things so random. Ubisoft has a history of paying homage to classic films and literature, and Assassin's Creed Origins is no exception. One of the most notable references in the game comes in the form of the side quest Seven Farmers, a clear nod to Akira Kurosawa's legendary 1954 film Seven Samurai. In Seven Farmers, Bayek stumbles upon a nearly abandoned village in the desert region of Uab Nome, where a group of desperate farmers struggles against relentless bandits. Most of their community has already been wiped out, leaving only 7 survivors who refuse to abandon their home. Seeing their plight, Bayek takes it upon himself to train them, preparing them for a final stand against their oppressors. This mirrors the plot of Seven Seven Samurai, in which a group of samurai warriors agrees to protect a defenseless village from bandits, teaching the villagers how to fight and defend themselves. Now, while the setup is pretty similar, Assassin's Creed Origins adds its own twist into the classic story. Instead of 7 warriors coming to the rescue, it's Bayek alone who shoulders the burden, emphasizing his role as a protector of the people, a Magi. The grim reality of Assassin's Creed Origins also makes the story feel tragic. Most of the village is already lost, and Bayek's efforts are more about salvaging what little remains rather than leading a heroic last stand. Let's tone it down a bit and show you a more simple Easter egg, one that's very short and straight to the point. Now, one of the easier to spot ones appears in the Fate of Atlantis DLC in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, specifically in the realm of Elysium. We all know that this simulation created by the ezio Elythia is a breathtaking landscape filled with golden fields and pretty looking flowers. However, if you take a moment to ascend to higher ground and look down upon the asphodel fields, you may notice something unexpected: Ubisoft's very own logo embedded within the flowers. So yeah, that one is a simple one. But now let's move on to some better ones. Pop culture references in the Assassin's Creed series are nothing new, and one of the most charming Easter eggs in Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a clear nod to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. This reference can be found in Gloucestershire, or Gloucestershire, I have no idea, where Eivor comes across a small pagan community unlike any other in the game. Instead of the typical Viking or Anglo-Saxon homes that we see in the game, these houses bear a striking resemblance to the Hobbit holes, those cozy round-doored dwellings of the Shire's residents in Tolkien's Legendarium. The similarities do not end with the architecture. If you explore into one of these houses, you will find a letter left behind by a disgruntled inhabitant. The note humorously mentions one of the little folk who requested a smaller door to keep unruly houseguests from his house. It also references that nonsense with the druid last fall, which is a clever parallel to Bilbo Baggins' first encounter with Gandalf and Thorin Oakenshield's company in The Hobbit, where a group of unexpected guests, which are Thorin's dwarves, invade Bilbo's home, much to his annoyance. This Easter egg is a subtle yet delightful tribute to Tolkien's work, playing on the idea that there may be small reclusive folk living in medieval England, just as hobbits live in the hidden corners of Middle-earth. Now, while there are no actual hobbits in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the reference is pretty interesting nonetheless. It also kind of fits thematically within the game's world, as pagan folklore and mystical elements already play a pretty important role in Eivor's journey. Staying on the topic of pop culture, Assassin's Creed Origins contains a pretty clever reference to the Lord of the Rings in the side quest Precious Bonds. In this side quest, Bayek encounters a group of tomb robbers in Giza who have been obsessed with a mysterious ring, each one desiring it for themselves. The quest title appears to be a direct nod to Gollum from The Lord of the Rings, who is consumed by his obsession with the One Ring, referring to it repeatedly as his precious. The reference does not stop there. As the quest unfolds, Bayek is forced to meditate between the feuding robbers, all of whom are so fixated on the ring that they are willing to turn on one another for it. This mirrors the corrupting influence of the One Ring in Tolkien's lore, which drove individuals to obsession and madness. The thematic similarities between the quest and the Lord of the Rings are unmistakable, drawing clear inspiration from the fantasy classic. However, the most obvious reference and homage comes during the quest's final cutscene. At one point, Bayek tosses the ring into the air, and the camera angle shifts to an overhead view, focusing on the ring spinning mid-air. Now, this shot is a near identical moment to The Lord of the Rings The Fellowship of the Ring, where Frodo Baggins accidentally drops the One Ring at the Prancing Pony Inn, causing it to flip in the air before landing on his finger. It is a pretty subtle but unmistakable visual reference for those that love Peter Jackson's film adaptation. This one is a revisit. When I started my YouTube channel, I made a video covering the Headless Horseman in Assassin's Creed Rogue, but that video did not really get the attention back then as it would now, so I figured why not revisit it for more eyes to see, and that is one of the most legendary ghost stories of all time, the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow. Now, this Easter egg or reference is a direct one to the Headless Horseman himself, which is the supernatural entity that haunts Sleepy Hollow in Irving's story. You can find this figure in both Assassin's Creed 3 and Assassin's Creed Rogue, but first let's start off with Assassin's Creed Rogue. Now, I did try to get my own footage for this, but I was waiting literally half an hour for the Headless Horseman to spawn in, but it didn't. So if you're exploring the Albany region of the River Valley in Assassin's Creed Rogue, you might stumble upon Sleepy Hollow, the famous setting of Washington Irving's classic short story The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and if you happen to be there at night time, you're in for a surprise. The area will suddenly become foggy or misty, and a headless warrior will attack you on sight. But you see, here's the thing, this headless enemy cannot be killed by normal means. He's straight up invulnerable to direct attacks, slashing, shooting and even countering, nothing works. Which, let's be honest, makes sense for an undead warrior with no head. However, if you're clever, there are two main ways to defeat him. The first is by shooting this pumpkin. This is the most Halloween themed way to take him down. In the cemetery next to the old Dutch church, there's a pumpkin sitting on a gravestone. If you shoot the pumpkin, the Headless Horseman will instantly drop dead. Now this is likely a nod to the fact that the Headless Horseman in Irving's tale throws a pumpkin as a weapon, making it his symbolic weakness. And the second way is by rope dart hanging. This method is ironically fitting. Using the rope dart, you can hang the Headless Horseman from a tree, which is one of the most cinematic ways to deal with him. But then again, this doesn't really kill him because, you know, undead specters cannot really die. And he doesn't have a head, so what are you hanging him from? So yeah, this is easily one of the coolest and creepiest Easter eggs in Assassin's Creed Rogue. The fact that the Headless Horseman is actually invulnerable and can only be stopped in specific ways makes him feel like a true ghostly entity, instead of just another boring enemy in the game. Now, when it comes to Assassin's Creed 3's depiction of the Headless Horseman, it is a lot different. So as you explore the frontier, you'll come across campfires with groups of frontiersmen telling stories. One of these stories, unlocked after completing a few of their previous ones, is titled The Headless Horseman. The story goes that there was once a soldier who got his head blown off by a cannonball, but somehow he did not die. His fellow soldiers carried his lifeless body away. Yet reports began surfacing that he was seen riding to the wilderness, searching for his missing head. But here's where it gets even darker. According to the storyteller, the Headless Horseman does not just wander aimlessly. He hunts and kills innocent people, decapitating them and wearing a pumpkin as a replacement head. At this point, the game tasks you with investigating the legend. When you head to the marked location, you find several headless corpses, confirming that something or someone has been killing people. If you examine the bodies, a ghostly vision triggers, showing a man on horseback with a pumpkin for a head, laughing maniacally before vanishing into the night. And that is it. The quest ends right there, leaving the mystery of the Headless Horseman unresolved. Connor's database entry even confirms that the Headless Horseman is real, meaning that he's not just a ghost story, he's a literal serial killer. Now, I said this in my video over a year ago. Why did Ubisoft not continue this questline? Imagine if they expanded upon it, maybe even gave us a DLC, similar to the Jack the Ripper expansion in Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Hunting down a headless, axe-wielding serial killer in Assassin's Creed 3's dark, misty frontier would have been amazing, but maybe leaving it a mystery was the point, to make us wonder if the Headless Horseman is still out there, waiting for his next victim. This last one involves quite a few Easter eggs and references to Skyrim, or more specifically the arrow to the knee reference.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
The infamous line, "I used to be an adventurer like you, then I took an arrow to the knee," spoken by Skyrim gods, has become one of the most iconic and memed about pieces of dialogue in gaming history. Ubisoft pays tribute to it in both Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. In Odyssey, you may come across a mercenary with the epithet, the Knee Destroyer. According to the in-game description, this mercenary was once close friends with one of the best mercenaries on Delos, until their friend was shot in the knee. This is a clear nod to Skyrim's famous god dialogue, implying that the injury may have ended their friend's mercenary career, just as it supposedly did for the many gods of Skyrim. Oh, and I guess he wants to take revenge by shooting every opponent he faces in the knee. Similarly, in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, after completing the Winchester story arc, you can visit the Winchester Seminary and find the child you previously saved during the quest Plucking the Quill. When spoken to, the child will say this:
My dad were a warrior. All he did was complain about how he once took an arrow to the knee.
This is an even more direct reference, swapping adventurer for warrior, while maintaining the spirit of the original line. So yeah, both of these Easter eggs serve as fun little winks to fellow Skyrim fans, showing that even in pretty different historical settings, the influence of the iconic RPG can still be felt in unexpected places. You know what, before I end the video, I want to toss in a bonus one, and this is an Easter egg that is not from Assassin's Creed, but instead it's about Assassin's Creed, and it's in Skyrim this time. So this one can be found at the Bar's Leap summit, which I think is a towering cliff with a wooden plank extending over the edge. Now this setup closely resembles the Assassin's Creed iconic viewpoints, where assassins perform the leap of faith, diving from great heights into the water or hay below. At Bar's Leap summit, you can also jump from the plank into a pool of water far below, making for an eerily familiar experience. But what makes this reference even more interesting is what happens after the leap. Upon surviving the fall, you are greeted by the ghost of a warrior dressed in Alikia clothing, who humorously explains that he wasn't as lucky, he leaped to his death. The Alikia warriors, native to the desert lands of Hammerfell, wear robes resembling Altair's iconic assassin outfit from Assassin's Creed. Oh, and the Alikia are highly skilled combatants, sometimes taking on assassin-like roles, so maybe that also deepens the possible connection. To add to the Assassin's Creed imagery, the archway leading to Basleep's summit has a shape somewhat resembling the assassin insignia, making this location feel even more like a hidden tribute. So yeah, whether intentional or a coincidence, Basleep's summit feels like Skyrim's own version of a leap of faith, giving you an unexpected Assassin's Creed style moment within Bethesda's open world. And there we have it. Those are 10 secret Easter eggs in Assassin's Creed, with a bonus one I guess. Let me know down below if you have any secrets, Easter eggs, references or any of the sort, and I will try my best to feature it in the next part of this series. And don't forget, you can download Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus using the link in the description, pinned comment or scan the QR code on screen. And do not forget to use the code HelloFeb for free in-game rewards. Once again, thank you so much to Snowprint Studios for sponsoring this video.